Hi everyone, I'm Lydia. Welcome to Gallery Teachers. In today's session, we're going to be looking at warmers, fillers, brain breaks to encourage our learners and to enhance their learning. So this workshop, I'd really like for you to reflect on the things that you do or maybe the things that you don't do. And so today we will look at the definition of these terms, the similarities and their differences. We will look at the benefits and the validity of including them. We're also going to have a brief look at the neuroscience behind them and why they're beneficial to our students. And also it will be a time for us to all share ideas. So I would like to share some ideas that I've used, which I've acquired from other teachers, from other conferences and webinars. But at the end, I'd also like you to share ideas and things that you do as well. So by the end, we can pick and choose ideas that we'd like to try in our next lessons. And maybe you do some of these things automatically anyway, but it's just a chance for you to think about why you do these things and to reflect. So this is a quote from Picasso. And what do you think the missing words are? So Picasso said that the meaning of life is to find your gift. The work of life is to develop it, and the purpose of life is to give it away. And I chose to include this quote as I think it's important for us also as teachers, because that's what we've done. We found our gift of the English language. We're working on developing it so that we can share it with our students and help them develop their gifts and develop them. However, when we find it difficult to engage our students in the lesson content, it can make it more challenging to help our students develop their gifts. So therefore, like what we're doing now, taking the time to develop our skills and share with others is what we're here to do. And next, I'd just like you to think about a time how and when you would include warmers, fillers, leadings, recycling or review activities, brain breaks and energy boosts. When would you include these things in your lesson? And how would you include these things in your lesson? Do you include them? Yeah, why or why not? So let's start at the beginning. So this is where we would include warmers and leadings, which are a little bit different. So they're both aimed at engaging our learners. There's a warmer would be to review or recycle previous topics. Yeah, leadings are to introduce a new topic and to pre-teach or review any vocabulary that learners already know. So during the lesson, we would use fillers, so brain breaks and energy boosts. These can help change the pace of the lesson. They can help with varying patterns of interaction, so we can get students from doing pair work to being into smaller groups to individual work. It also helps to refocus the learner's attention. Yeah, maybe students have had a big lunch and they're a bit sleepy during the lesson. So using a brain break or an energy boost can just help to reclaim their focus. So let's move on to finishing and ending the lesson. So this is when we would use a cooler. So these are used to recycle or review the lesson content. Also to end the lesson on a high and to make the students leave, feeling motivated and positive about the lesson. They can help learners just to feel more confident and motivated, like I said. So what are the main key features of warmers and of coolers and of fillers. So they should be kept short, so 3 to 5 minutes long. They should be fun and engaging, something that captures your students' attention. They should be simple to explain, so not much teacher talk time. They should be simple and students should know what they need to do. They should include little to no preparation. Okay? Most of the ones I use, you don't need worksheets. Okay? You can just write things down, maybe with the board, and students will know what to do. So what are the main benefits of using warmers, fillers and brain breaks? Well, they're good because they can help recycle and review language, which can help motivate students. They can practice the 4 skills. It gives a purpose for the learning to our students when they know that they can use their English for reading, writing, speaking and listening. They can help create a safe learning environment, which is really important for students to feel comfortable so that they can have an open mind for learning. They can help aid memorization. So, all that lovely target language and vocabulary or grammar that you've taught the students, you want them to be able to memorize it for the next lesson. Yeah, they can help motivate and engage learners. And again, this is linked to memorization because when students memorize from the lesson, they feel more motivated and engaged. And when they're more motivated and engaged, they're more likely to memorize the lesson content. They can help raise awareness of grammatical features and lexical sets. And they can also help activate schemata, so help our learners to think of vocabulary sets. And so both of these things, they're beneficial to our learners because it can engage them, but it can also really help them with their learning. So let's take a closer look at the benefits. So next, I'd like you to think of a time when you felt nervous or uncomfortable. How did this affect your confidence or your feelings of anxiety? How did this affect your memory? Yeah, did it stop your memory? Next, I'd like you to think of a time where you've lacked confidence, or maybe you've noticed your students have seemed stressed and they couldn't memorize something. So a time when your learners lacked confidence and seemed stressed. So why might your students have felt this way? And what did you do to help them overcome their lack of confidence or stress? So here are some reasons that could make your learners feel uncomfortable or stressed. So for example, maybe they didn't know an answer and this made them feel nervous. Perhaps error correction didn't make them feel good. Perhaps just in general, they were lacking motivation from, outside influences that had happened to them during the day. But also maybe there's a problem with inside the classroom and they're feeling left out and like they don't feel like they're part of the classroom. So what can we do to help then our learners overcome these things to feel less nervous and more comfortable? So it's really important to build familiarity and rapport. Helping the students to feel comfortable with each other, but also with you as the teacher. Encouraging our students to feel motivated, and getting them engaged to start with is a good way to motivate them. Okay, so not knowing an answer, error correction, feeling embarrassed, lacking motivation, anxiety, lacking confidence, and feeling left out. So just to repeat, and for you to reflect, why are these things not beneficial for our learners? So, as well as, causing them to lack confidence and maybe feel stress, they can also increase the affective filter. Okay, and what is the affective filter? Maybe some of you know, but if you don't, here is a response here. So Stephen Krashen came up with this theory, which is that the affective filter causes a psychological response in our minds, which causes like a block or an imaginary wall, and it stops our brains from acquiring and learning new information. Yeah, he stated that, when we feel calm and relaxed, this can help lower our affective filter. So therefore, creating a classroom environment that can help lower this filter is really important, because having this affective filter lowered can increase motivation in our students because they feel relaxed and because they feel calm. Yeah, it helps them to feel comfortable with each other and comfortable with the teacher. There's also current neuroscience research that is linked to Krashen's theory and can help support this also. So it's not just a theory, there's also science and evidence based around it. So before I go into a bit more with the science side, I'd just like you to think about, why is it important to begin with a warmer, a lead-in, or a review activity? So as well as the other things previously mentioned, it can also give learners the time to switch from their L1 to their L2. So it just gives them a bit of a breathing space. It can include content that gets students ready for the lesson. So again, it's instead of bombarding them with new information, it's getting them relaxed and ease them into the lesson. Yeah, it helps them get engaged in the topic. Test, teach, test. Yeah, we can see what the learners already know so that we can then teach it throughout the lesson. Or it can recycle or review previous lesson content, which again, it boosts learners' confidence because they already know some of the information. And importantly, like Krashen stated with his affective filter theory, it creates a safe space for learners to learn where they feel comfortable and confident. So just remember, it's important to create a safe space so that our students can feel comfortable and confident. Okay, helping them to feel comfortable and confident, it helps with the learning process and can increase their learning. So when learners feel nervous, this has a major impact on their learning. So here is a little example that I like to do with my students as a warmer, or sometimes as a filler, just to regain students' attention. So it's called blankety blank, and I would show or I would dictate a sentence with a blank. And so in the blank, the students would have to write a word, and they could do this in pairs, and this would help build a nice rapport. So as you can see here, the blank would be an adjective. So if you were practicing adjectives, it's a nice way to link to that content. So let me show you some further sentences. So as you can see, these sentences, some of them, the blank is an adjective, but you could also use different words that you've been practicing, maybe different nouns. And this is just a nice way to get students to make sentences together. But also, as you can see, the sentences aren't serious, so it's a nice way to build rapport. I think when students can be, silly together, it's lowering that filter and it's making them feel comfortable. So this is just one thing that I do. Further examples, I'm sure that you probably do these also. So I won't explain too much, But if you'd like to know more, you can ask during the Q&A. So I sometimes do a classroom mingle or find somebody who. So again, I would use these at the start of the lesson, but also during the lesson if I feel that I need to reclaim learners' focus and attention. And it's just a nice way to get students moving in the classroom also, so that they're not sat down in their chairs the entire time. I also like to include board work. So again, students are up out of their seats, yeah, they're moving and they're writing things down. So for example, board races, they're very good and students like them. Also word scramble. So this is another variation of a board race where students are, in competition to write things. So you could have a big board, but also students could have their own individual boards where they're in a race to write things that you've dictated or ideas that they've dictated to each other. Next, let's move on to fillers, brain breaks and energy boosts, and let's look at why these are important to include. So they can help change the pace of the lesson. So again, if your students look a bit tired, you can bring up the energy, but also if there's too much energy in the classroom, you can help bring down the energy and get students to feel more calm. Yeah, so changing the patterns of interaction, changing partners or changing groups, motivating learners. Yeah, reclaiming their focus, reinforcing the target language so that they're getting lots of practice. Yeah, and aiding the memorization. So brain breaks, they can help reduce stress, which we know is important, reduce anxiety, re-energize our learners, which can help them learn more efficiently. But also it can refocus their mind. So how are fillers and brain breaks different? So they are used a little bit differently. So for example, fillers are more closely related to the lesson content and the target language that you've used, whereas brain breaks, they can be completely separate. They don't need to be related to the lesson content. So actually taking a brain break, it's been scientifically proven to help aid memorization. And it's almost like pressing a big reset button as you're taking learners out of the learning and you're putting their brains into a different, so it's resetting. So what different things can we do to help our learners reset their minds and to take them out of the lesson? So the neuroscience, Andrew Huberman, so he stated that defocusing during breaks can help enhance learners' focus once they return to the task. So for example, doing a meditation, yeah, it takes their focus from the main lesson and it's putting them into a different thing so that when they go back to the lesson, their minds are almost refreshed. Simon Says, another classic. I don't just use this one with young learners, I've also used this with teenagers and adults, and they also enjoy it. It doesn't just have to be body parts either. You can adapt it to whatever you're doing during the lesson, or you could adapt it for students to actually stand up and to move to different parts of the classroom. So we could also include party tricks as a way to take learners out of the lesson and into something new. So for example, even something as simple as seeing if students can do something like this. I've done this with students, again, young learners and adults, and it's really nice just to see everyone trying and seeing them, use the other side of their brain before going back to the lesson. I've had learners showing me things that they can do as well. Even if it's just showing me that they can click their fingers, for example, or even if it's something like that they can show that they can lick their elbow or something silly like that. It's a nice way of building rapport in the class with students showing what they can do. So you could also play jump the line with your students. And this is just a good way to get them stretching, moving their body. It's something that takes their focus away from the lesson, ready and prepared to go back into it. So as well as including different brain breaks, it's also important to make sure that you're including the 4 skills into the warmers and the brain breaks. So how can we integrate? And why is this important? So Krashen, again, he stated that meaningful interaction is helpful with natural communication. So this can help motivate our students. So we could do things like a running dictation, another classic, and also a dictogloss. Again, I don't want to go too much into detail because I'm sure you already know about or do these things. But if you don't, then please ask during the Q&A and we can go into more detail. There's lots of variations of how you can do these things as well. So for example, there's different sentence dictations where you put your students into A and B. You say a sentence and A has to write the first word of the sentence and B has to write the last word of the sentence. They then have to reconstruct the sentence. So they're practicing their listening skills, their writing skills, reading also. Okay, so this can help focus the attention. Okay? And if you see here, the neuroscientist Andrew Huberman has said that it can help create meaningful events. So when the language and the target language is meaningful, it helps with the memorization and it helps to engage students, which is what we want to help increase their learning. So another variation of a sentence dictation, and this is nice for young learners, but also I've used it with adults just to kind of build rapport and to help reset and take their mind out of the lesson. So this is just where you would show the sentence or read the sentence and learners would draw the sentence. So instead of writing it down, they're drawing it. So here are just some example sentences that I've used with young learners. And it's, even if they draw a silly picture, that's okay. I've shown them that, I draw silly pictures as well. So it's a nice rapport building thing that you can do as well. If you wanted to go a step further, after drawing, the students could then write and reconstruct the sentences or just speak to reconstruct the sentences. So this is another thing that you could do with your learners as a warm-up, but also you could do it during the lesson. So this is from the New York Times, and they update this weekly with a what's going on in this picture. So first the students would look at the picture and then you would show them the questions. So what's going on in the picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can you find? So it's just a nice way at the start of the lesson to get students, talking with each other, using their English in a natural way, practicing the 4 skills. But it's something that you could include as a routine at the start. And there's so many photos that they've got in their backlog that you could also relate the photos to any lesson content that you're doing. So it's just a nice way to get pictures in also. So finally, just to go back to another quote from Picasso about good artists copy, but great artists steal. So like the first quote by Picasso, I think this also, really relates to us as teachers also. We find ideas, we adapt things, we tweak things, but there's never really an original idea. We're all like the magpie, taking things as we go through our teaching career. All of the ideas that I've shared, I've acquired from, other teachers, from collaborating with others, from workshops and webinars that I've attended. I've taken things and I've tried them. So I would just like you to reflect, what do you think you would like to try? What have you tried? Do you have other ideas of different warmers and fillers that you would like to share with other teachers during today? Okay, please let me know during the next session. So if you would like to find out any other information about Krashen's theory or about neuroscience, then please take a look at the websites below. The British Council also has, great ideas, classic ideas for warmers and fillers if you need a bit more inspiration. So thank you for attending today, and I look forward to hearing your questions and the discussion that we'll have during the next session.